There were two kinds of sick in 1952. Sick enough for the doctor, something broken, something seriously wrong, something that needed a real diagnosis. That went to the doctor's office. Every other kind of sick, your grandmother handled at home. Not guessing, not hoping, with methods tested on everybody in the family for 3 generations. She did not think of it as medicine. She thought of it as knowing what to do. This is what she knew. One thing before number 15. If you have not subscribed yet, this list is the reason to do it. Every one of these used to be common knowledge. We're bringing it back. Number 15, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 cup of warm water. The instant a throat started to scratch, she was at the stove. Salt dissolved in warm water, not hot, warm. 30 seconds of gargling 4 times a day. No appointment, no copay. That was the treatment. In 2005, researchers at Kyoto University published a randomized controlled trial in the American Journal of Preventive Medicine, following 387 volunteers through a cold and flu season. The gargling group showed a significantly lower rate of upper respiratory infections. The researchers described simple water gargling as effective to prevent upper respiratory tract infections and called it virtually cost-free. The sore throat treatment market, including lozenges, sprays, numbing drops, and prescription antivirals, is now worth over $1.5 billion a year. The salt was already in her kitchen. Number 14, a tablespoon of honey, half a lemon, warm water. If a cough settled in, the kind that woke a child at night, she made a cup. The child drank it slowly, sitting up in bed. The cough usually eased within the hour. In 2020, a systematic review in BMJ Evidence-Based Medicine analyzed 14 randomized controlled trials comparing honey against standard cough treatments, including dextromethorphan, the active ingredient in most commercial children's syrups. Honey outperformed standard care on cough frequency, severity, and disrupted sleep. The World Health Organization lists honey as a demulcent in its official cough management guidelines. In 2007, the FDA concluded dextromethorphan was not effective in children under 12. The pediatric cough syrup market had been worth billions when the guidance arrived. Honey worked. The replacement, for decades, did not. Number 13, the little brown bottle in the back of the cabinet. She rarely needed it. But when a tooth ached in the night, really ached, she soaked a small square of cotton in oil of cloves and packed it against the gum. The ache receded within minutes. It always had. The active compound in clove oil is eugenol. Today, eugenol is the primary ingredient in zinc oxide eugenol cement, the material dentists pack into temporary cavities between appointments. It is still used as a topical anesthetic at the dental chair. Every dentist in America uses the same compound she kept in a 15-cent bottle. The global dental care market is now worth over $50 billion annually. Her solution was a 15-cent bottle. Number 12, fresh ginger long before ginger ale came in a bottle. The smell alone was half the medicine. She grated a thumb of fresh ginger into a cup of boiling water, strained it, added honey, and gave it warm to anyone who felt nauseated, for motion sickness, morning sickness, or a stomach that had had a hard day. Researchers at the University of Michigan Medical Center documented ginger's anti-nausea effects in a randomized controlled trial published in Anesthesiology, finding it effective for post-operative nausea. The active compounds gingerols and shogaols inhibit serotonin receptors in the gut that trigger nausea responses. The anti-nausea medication market runs into billions of dollars annually. The commercial ginger ale most Americans reach for today contains no measurable ginger. Number 11. The yellow box in the back of the pantry. After a heavy meal, she did not reach for a tablet. She stirred a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda into a small glass of water and drank it slowly. The fizz rose. The heartburn went. Sodium bicarbonate neutralizes stomach acid through a direct chemical reaction. This is chemistry, not folk medicine. It is also the reason Alka-Seltzer works. Introduced in 1931, Alka-Seltzer is primarily sodium bicarbonate with aspirin and citric acid added for effervescence. the same compound she already had in the pantry for 19 cents a box. The global antacid market is now worth over $8 billion annually. She did not call it chemistry, she called it what her mother had shown her. Her solution ran out before the year did. None of these remedies required anything she did not already have. None required a waiting room or a prescription. Every one of them was working on the same human body the modern treatments work on, because the body has not changed. What changed is who was allowed to treat it. Number 10 is the remedy a peer-reviewed study confirmed in a major American medical journal in the year 2000. It does exactly what she always said it did. Number 10, Sunday's chicken, 3 hours, a pot on the stove. She did not open a can. She made it from the carcass of Sunday's bird, simmered low with onion, celery, and black pepper until the broth ran deep. Anyone sick in that house got a bowl of something that had been on the stove since morning. In 2000, Dr. Barbara Rennard and Dr. Stephen Rennard at the Nebraska Medical Center published a study in the journal Chest titled "Chicken Soup Inhibits Neutrophil Chemotaxis in Vitro." They found the soup significantly inhibited neutrophils, the white blood cells responsible for upper respiratory inflammation. Each vegetable ingredient showed individual activity. The complete soup showed this without cytotoxicity. The authors concluded it may contain a number of substances with beneficial medicinal activity. Campbell's Soup Company earned $9 billion in revenue that year. Their condensed broth is not the same thing. Number 9, the morning tonic that a Vermont doctor put on the New York Times bestseller list. In 1958, Dr. D.C. Jarvis, a country doctor who had practiced in rural Vermont for decades, published a book called Folk Medicine. It reached number 1 on the New York Times bestseller list. His central recommendation was the same morning tonic your grandmother had been making since before he had a book deal: apple cider vinegar, raw honey, and warm water. She stirred 2 teaspoons into a glass of water every morning, sometimes with raw honey. That was it. It had been her mother's habit and her grandmother's before that. Research in diabetes care has since found that acetic acid, the active compound in apple cider vinegar, measurably improve insulin sensitivity after meals in people with insulin resistance. A bottle of store-brand apple cider vinegar costs 29 cents. The global apple cider vinegar market is now worth over $1.3 billion. Number 8, the remedy she made from the pantry when a cold went to the chest. When the cough deepened and sitting up became necessary, she made a mustard plaster. She mixed dry mustard powder with flour and warm water, spread the paste onto a cloth, and laid it on the chest with a protective layer of linen against the skin. She left it in place for 20 minutes. The heat built slowly, and the chest loosened. The active compound in ground mustard seed, allyl isothiocyanate, is a counter-irritant, and it increases blood circulation to the underlying airways. This is the same therapeutic principle behind modern topical pain relief products such as capsaicin cream and methyl salicylate patches, products representing hundreds of millions in annual sales. She made it for the cost of a tablespoon of dry mustard. It was uncomfortable. That was the point. Number 7 sounds like something from a seance, not a medicine cabinet. The man behind it claimed his medical knowledge arrived while he was asleep. What he couldn't have known is that decades after his death, peer-reviewed laboratories would begin finding out he had been right. Number 7, Edgar Cayce's remedy that outlasted him by 30 years. Edgar Cayce was the most famous medical intuitive in American history, the sleeping prophet, dead in 1945, but cited in American kitchens for decades after. His castor oil recommendation survived him by generations. Warm castor oil applied to a flannel cloth laid across the lower abdomen and covered with a heating pad, used for menstrual pain, constipation, and persistent abdominal discomfort, left for an hour. Ricinoleic acid, the primary fatty acid in castor oil, has demonstrated anti-inflammatory and analgesic properties in peer-reviewed laboratory research. The FDA approves castor oil as a stimulant laxative. The Association for Research and Enlightenment, Casey's institutional legacy and still active in Virginia Beach, has documented decades of case reports. She didn't need the study, she had watched it work. The bottle of castor oil cost 29 cents. Number 6. What the Soviet Army called Russian penicillin. When a cold announced itself, when the throat tightened and the body signaled something coming, she reached for the garlic. Into broth with honey, sometimes raw with bread. The old people in her family called it the strongest medicine in the kitchen. During the Second World War, when penicillin supplies ran critically short, Soviet military medics used garlic paste on wounds and administered it orally to soldiers with early signs of infection. The compound allicin, released when garlic is crushed, has documented antimicrobial properties against a range of bacteria in laboratory research. Albert Schweitzer, who received the 1952 Nobel Peace Prize, used garlic to treat dysentery at his hospital in Gabon when pharmaceutical options were unavailable. Garlic does not treat serious systemic infection. A doctor is still needed for that. For what was coming, for what the body was fighting off before it became serious, the instinct was right. None of this is alternative medicine. Every study cited here was published in a peer-reviewed medical journal. No company funded a clinical trial for salt water or garlic or raw honey or ginger because none of those things can be patented. Research follows money. Money follows patents. Number 3 is what she put on wounds that hospitals now use in operating rooms. Number 1 is the morning habit she gave every child in America and what happened when that habit disappeared. Number 5, 2 cups of Epsom salt, a full tub of warm water. At the end of a week that had not stopped after standing and lifting, with the accumulated ache of a body that had been used, she drew a bath, dissolved 2 cups of Epsom salt and soaked for 20 minutes. Swollen ankles, aching knuckles. Her lower back had not been quiet since Thursday. Epsom salt is magnesium sulfate. Magnesium is required for more than 300 enzymatic reactions in the human body, including muscle contraction and nerve function. Whether it absorbs significantly through bath water remains debated, and the relief may come partly from the warm water itself. What is not debated is that magnesium deficiency is associated with muscle pain and fatigue. This bath cost 29 cents. Number 4, the rubber bottle, the kettle, her time. She did not call it a condition, she called it her time. And she managed it the same way every month, a rubber hot water bottle filled from the kettle, wrapped in cloth, laid across the lower abdomen while she sat or lay down for an hour. Every woman in her family had done this. None of them called a doctor. Research from University College London documented that heat applied to the abdomen at approximately 40 degrees Celsius temporarily blocks pain receptors, specifically heat-sensitive channels that suppress the signals sent by prostaglandins, the compounds responsible for uterine cramping. The pain relief was found comparable to ibuprofen for mild to moderate menstrual pain. A rubber hot water bottle cost $1.50 in 1955 and lasted 15 winters. The ibuprofen market is now worth over $3 billion annually. Number 3, the jar of honey she kept in the kitchen for more than cooking. She kept the jar near the stove where accidents happen. A small burn from the stovetop, a cut from the bread knife. She cleaned it, applied a thin layer of raw honey, and covered it with a clean cloth. It healed cleanly. She did not think much about why. Her mother had done the same. Raw honey has an acidity between 3.2 and 4.5 on the pH scale, acidic enough to inhibit the growth of most bacteria. It also generates small amounts of hydrogen peroxide through the enzyme glucose oxidase. Medical-grade Manuka honey is now applied to chronic wounds, post-surgical sites, and burn injuries in hospitals across the United States, the United Kingdom, and Australia. A jar of raw honey cost 49 cents in 1955. Medical-grade Manuka honey for clinical wound care now sells for more than $50 per tube. The mechanism is identical. The honey is the same. Number 2 is still on every pharmacy shelf in America. It costs almost exactly what it cost in 1955, but the guidance on how to use it has changed, and one of those uses, it turns out, she was right to stop at. Number 2, the small brown bottle with the flip cap. 3% hydrogen peroxide was the only concentration she ever needed. A scraped knee, a minor cut, a wound that looked like it might be getting started on something worse. You remember the sound, the sharp fizz of bubbles on broken skin, that brief sting, then quiet. A cotton ball, saturated, held until the bubbling stopped, then covered. That was the treatment. Hydrogen peroxide kills bacteria through oxidation, and it releases oxygen that disrupts bacterial cell structure. It remains on pharmacy shelves today, still 3% and still inexpensive. Medical guidance has evolved. Dermatologists now advise against it on actively healing wounds because it can damage new tissue. But for initial wound cleaning, ear care, and minor oral hygiene, the chemistry remains valid. She used it carefully for the right situations. The bottle cost 25 cents. Most of what she used it for, it still handles. Number 1. The teaspoon she gave every child before school. Dr. Benjamin Spock's Baby and Child Care was first published in 1946. It became the second best-selling book in American history after the Bible, with more than 50 million copies sold. In edition after edition, Dr. Spock recommended one thing that has since disappeared. So completely, most people under 50 have never heard of it. Daily cod liver oil for every child. A teaspoon every morning before breakfast. Cod liver oil provides vitamin D and long-chain omega-3 fatty acids in concentrations difficult to match elsewhere. The near elimination of rickets in American children by the early 1950s was due in significant part to cod liver oil and fortified milk. Sometime in the early 1970s, the morning teaspoon stopped. It became old-fashioned. No one announced that children no longer needed vitamin D. The habit simply fell away, the way habits fall when no one reinforces them. The NIH has documented that approximately 42% of American adults are now vitamin D deficient. The global omega-3 supplement market is worth over $5 billion annually. Vitamin D supplements represent billions more. Every capsule does exactly what her teaspoon did every morning. The deficiency she prevented for almost nothing was measured decades later in the blood work of the grandchildren. Your grandmother did not have a wellness routine. She had a medicine cabinet with 12 things in it, and she knew what each one was for. The ailments have not changed. The remedies have not changed. What changed is whether they were considered worth your time. The next video is ready.